So this is a pretty exciting video for me. Today when the system ran, I made M class in carry optics. For those of you unfamiliar with USPSA, M class is the second highest tier. There's master class and then there's grandmaster class. So I made master class in carry optics. So I'm just gonna go over kind of the journey so far, how I got into this, when I started, and what kind of has worked for me to get to this point in my shooting. So my first ever match was a 3-gun match, rifle, pistol, shotgun. And I found it because I'd gotten a nice rifle. I'd gotten a BCM, just kind of a duty setup essentially. And I wanted to go do something with it, right? So I was like, well, I guess I can go shoot pistol. I wasn't super big into the pistol side of things. I was pretty new to shooting in general. I was new to handgun shooting especially. I'd done some stuff with rifles as I grew up, but handguns were pretty unfamiliar. I'd only really shot the ones that I bought, handful of times up to this point. So I went down to this match. The gun I started with, the now infamous SIG P320. This is the X carry version, so it's the shorter slide with the full-size grip. At that point, I don't think I had a magwell on it. I think it was pretty much bone stock. So this one, it's still pretty stock. I stippled it at one point. I put a magwell on it. But the infamous P320, that was the gun that that started this all. So there's a video from that first match. It was pretty rough. I had basically no idea what I was doing. I was loading magazines from my pocket. I mean, you can see my movement wasn't there. Shooting was slow. This was my first match, so you can start anywhere. Truly, anybody can come shoot a match if you know how to be safe, and this is just proof of that, right?
It's a shit tone. I want to move back to that, but the pace sucks down.
Where do you work?
I've never done. Screw you, I'm just gonna take what I want. You owe me. That's the mentality of this. We're here, you go here, and the people are like, hey, I want a car second.
So after that first 3-gun match in El Paso, I started trying to find other matches in my local area. I had actually really enjoyed the handgun portion, and so I wanted to do more of that. Or, well, I guess at that time it was more, I wanted more competition. And I was willing to go do handgun competitions to do the handgun, but I was still kind of into the rifle part of it. So I was really looking for 3-gun, but there wasn't much in my area. So after that, I found a PCSL match with OPSA, which is now my local club that I'm the secretary of. So I went and shot this PCSL match, and it was a good time. It was rifle, pistol. I enjoyed it a lot. And so after that, it was just kind of, always looking for matches, right? So I did a couple here and there, and my first USPSA match ever was April 28th of 2024. So that first match I did, the El Paso 3-gun, was in February of 24, and my first USPSA match was April of 24. So that was my first introduction to USPSA, and that's kind of when I really took the drugs, so to say. After that, I went down to IDPA, and I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as USPSA. I know, you all know how that goes. It was fun. I did enjoy it, and it was a good experience. Unfortunately, I don't have any videos from that first USPSA match, but I do have an IDPA video that I will share with you. And again, you can see I'm a little small improvement over the first video, but still really rough, really slow. Shooting's not there, movement's not there, it's clunky, it's slow. So from there, the first USPSA match that I have video of is with Mesilla Valley Pistoleros in July of 24. And this match, I'm starting to figure things out at this point. I get the general gist, but I still am practicing a whole lot. I still don't have all the basics down fully. And I think I was classified by this point in limited, because the SIG, I put that magwell on, and by that point the SIG was limited. And I was classified in limited as D class. And that was mostly because I tried to rush on a lot of the classifiers. You know, you see the guys going fast and you want to go fast, and it caused me to just miss a ton. And so pretty much a lot of my early classifiers were massive dumpster fires. So I was little old D class and limited, and I really fell in love with the sport. So I wanted to go get an actual comp gun, and that led me to the CZ Shadow 2. This one is technically not mine. All the internals are, but long story short, my frame and slide are getting some work done, so I'm borrowing this one for now. But I went and I looked at a lot of guns. Well, actually, that's not true. I went to go look at a lot of guns. I picked up a CZ Shadow 2, and I was sold. That was that. So this one, by now at this point, I've Cajunized it. I have these lockjaw grips on it. The lockjaw, or I think it's just the lock mag release. And I didn't have an optic on at that point. I was just running production after that match. So this is my first ever match as production with the CZ. So coming up quickly was the New Mexico sectionals. I was getting really involved with my local club here, and I was helping with sectionals. I was an RO, so this is my first major match coming up. They had a course for RO certification, so that's when I got my RO certification, and I was getting prepared. I was dry firing more at this point. It still wasn't elite level dry fire, but I was doing it, and I was conscious that it needed to get done, and I was doing it a lot more frequently. So the New Mexico sectionals, let's see where I finished there. It was not phenomenal, but I did put down I was happy with my performance at that point. I reclassified as D in production, I do believe. So I did win D class at the New Mexico sectionals, but there was no prize for that. But I was 46.82%. I was 104th at the New Mexico sectionals. So pretty abysmal. This was one of the good stages I had. I think I got a procedural still, but this was one of those stages where I actually felt the stage flow, and I was like, whoa. So this is how it goes, right? So a couple months after the New Mexico sectionals, I got my first optic that I put onto the Shadow, and it was a Vortex Defender XL. It was at this point when I really started putting in the work. I was dry firing a lot more. It wasn't quite every day yet, and the days that I did it weren't always quite high quality, but I was doing it. Right. So once I made B class in carry optics, that was a couple months later. I can't remember the exact date, but it was before the 2025 Dragons Cup and the 2025 Northern Arizona. So both of those matches I staffed this year, and Dragons Cup was rough for me. I did not perform at the level that I wanted. It was rough. I had a lot of FTSAs. I wasn't prepared for the complexity of the stages there, I think. And it was also my first real major, because the New Mexico Sectionals was at my home club, my home range. I knew everybody. I was familiar with everything. So it was a little less intimidating, I guess. But the Dragons Cup was the first match I traveled to. And so it was a little more stressful, and I think that really showed my performance. But just a week later, I had the Northern Arizona Classic. And that match, I was very happy with my performance. Things went a lot better, and I ended up winning B class and getting second overall for carry optic military. I won B class carry optics, not B class overall, I don't think. In the Northern Arizona Classic, I finished in the top 100. I was number 84. I was 84th, 73% at the Northern Arizona Classic. We won't talk about Dragons Cup because that was pretty abysmal. It was about a month before Dragons Cup and Northern Arizona that I was dry firing every day, and that's when I really started getting after it. I was doing it every day. I was usually dry firing for 20 to 40 minutes, sometimes a little longer depending on how I was feeling, how the flow was. And it was in June. June was the first time that I ever won the overall in a match. And I don't think that I was A class quite then. I think I made A class. Yeah, I made A class at the match after that. So I was still B class at this point. But that was my first match win. That was a big boost. You know, you're kind of chasing that dragon. So I made A class the match after that. I was really dry firing. I dry fired every day. I would dry fire on match days, and I would go to matches. I pretty much all of this year, I've been going to a match almost every single weekend as I go to a match. So then the July of this month, we had the all classifier with OPSA, and that was the first time that I ever scored master. And I even got this was all classifiers, so I think I got 2 master class runs there, and then I got 1 grandmaster class run. That one was in limited optics, but it was still just the Shadow. I didn't switch guns to get a class in LO. So those were my first master and grandmaster runs, and at that point I was sitting at 81% in carry optics, but there was a 60% that was really dragging my score down. The rest of them were either like 83, 84, or 90, 91. So then this last weekend was the match that got me to Masterclass. I had 2 classifiers of that match. I got a 90, or I think I got an 86 on one of them and an 80 on the other. They weren't awesome, but they were enough to get that average over at 85. So that's the story so far. That is how I got to Masterclass. I've been at it for about a year and 6 months, I think. So a year and a half from D class to Master class. And really only maybe 6 months of that has been me really dry firing and really putting in the work. So that's all to say, do your dry fire. If you want to get better, you got to dry fire. That is the key to success. I'm not an expert yet, but I have improved very quickly, and I've done very little dry fire to do so. I maybe go to the range once a month for just a straight practice session. Outside of that, most of my live fire is in matches. That's not to say don't go live fire. It just doesn't always fit with my schedule and my ammo budget, I guess. So what's next for me is really push toward that Grandmaster. I'm going to keep going to matches. I'm going to keep dry firing. I just want to keep getting better and better. This year, I have the 2025 New Mexico Sectionals and Area 4 Championship left to shoot for my majors for the rest of the year. So I'd love to perform great at both of those. Gunning for a M-class win at both. We'll see if that comes to fruition, but that is the goal. So that's what's next for me. What has worked for me is dry fire a lot. I use Ace VR starting about February, I believe. And I think Ace VR is very helpful, but you have to use it in conjunction with dry fire. If you just use the Ace, you're going to get better. But I think the key to the whole puzzle is true, boring old dry fire. So that's all I've got. If this was an entertaining video, let me know. Let me get some comments. Let me know what other kind of videos you'd like to see. I'm still trying to figure out this whole YouTube content creation. So if you have ideas, requests, you let me know, and I will see what I can do about it.